Anonymous Confessions.
Confession 1. I made up a fake identity online, and someone fell in love with it. It started off as a way to cope, not to deceive, not to manipulate, just to survive. This is something I haven't told anyone. Not my therapist, not even myself. Fully. I buried it so deep under layers of shame and rationalizations that I managed to pretend it wasn't real for years. But it was. And it still is. Back in 2018, I was 27, unemployed, and living in a basement apartment that smelled perpetually of mildew and hopelessness. I had dropped out of grad school a year prior due to burnout and undiagnosed depression, and I was flailing. My days were made of ramen, late night Wikipedia spirals, and a haunting sense that I was slowly becoming invisible to the world. I started browsing Reddit obsessively. At first, it was just r/depression and r/anxiety, places where I could lurk and feel a flicker of connection. But then I found a subreddit dedicated to mental health support. People posted about their struggles, their wins, their setbacks. It felt real, more real than my own life, which at that point felt like a ghost of something that had never properly formed. One night, in a moment of impulsive longing to be heard, I made a throwaway account and posted under the username u/Dr. J. Tanner. I don't know why I picked that name. It just sounded grounded, kind, safe. Doctor was a fluke. I didn't mean to pretend to be a licensed therapist. It just sort of happened. I imagined him as a man in his 40s, calm, collected, someone who had made it through darkness and now spent his life helping others. People started responding to my comments. I would reply with long, thoughtful messages. I drew from my own therapy sessions, self-help books, even things I half remembered from psych classes in undergrad. I wasn't trying to mislead anyone. I genuinely thought I was helping, and I was. I got messages thanking me. One person said I stopped them from taking their own life. That terrified me. And then there was her. She messaged me privately after I left a comment on her post about grieving her father. Her username was u/lostlanterns. Her real name was Elise. She thanked me for my words, said they made her feel seen. That one message turned into a full conversation, then a nightly ritual. We started messaging every day. At first, it was all about her grief, her insomnia, her family. Then it turned more personal. Her favorite books, her childhood memories, her dreams. I should have stopped it, but I didn't. I looked forward to her messages like a drowning man waits for air. For the first time in years, someone saw me, or rather, saw who I was pretending to be. Dr. J. Tanner. Calm, wise, compassionate, everything I wished I was. Months passed. We moved from Reddit DMs to email, then eventually to a private Discord. She sent voice messages. I never replied with my own. I said I had a throat condition, a lie, of course, but believable enough. I was so careful. I never gave identifying details. I never asked for anything. I thought as long as I didn't cross certain lines, it wasn't really wrong. We never sexted, never exchanged photos, but it was intimate, deeply so. She would tell me about her day before bed. I'd talk her down from panic attacks. Sometimes I'd stay up all night researching the best ways to respond to trauma, so I could give her the most comfort. I told myself I was helping. That it didn't matter who I really was. That maybe, in some twisted way, the person I pretended to be was real. But then she said she wanted to meet. She had a work trip in Chicago. She lived in Portland. Said maybe we could grab coffee. Just as a thank you. Just once. If that would be okay with your schedule, Doctor. Tanner. My stomach dropped. I didn't reply for 2 days. Then I made up a story about being called out of town. She seemed disappointed, but understanding. I knew it wouldn't end there. She started asking more questions. Did I have kids? Was I married? What hospital did I work at? The details started to crack. I felt like I was holding up a crumbling wall with my bare hands. And then one night, She left a message that changed everything. I think I'm falling in love with you. I know we barely know each other, and I don't even know what you look like, but I just had to say it. I stared at the screen until the sun rose, and then I disappeared. Deleted the Reddit account, ghosted the email, logged out of Discord, gone. She sent a few emails to the burner address. Are you okay? Did I say something wrong? Then, please don't do this. Just tell me you're alive. Then nothing. That was 4 years ago. I think about her often. I have no idea what she looks like. I don't know her last name, but her voice is seared into my brain. The soft lilt when she laughed. The way she'd say my name with such trust. I still don't know how to forgive myself. Not just for lying, but for the deeper betrayal. Letting someone give me their heart while knowing I had no right to accept it. She was real. I wasn't. And that's something I carry every single day. Confession 2. I stole from my best friend after he died. I wish I could tell you I regret what I did. That I toss and turn at night, haunted by the weight of my actions. But the truth is murkier than that. My best friend died suddenly at the age of 31. A brain aneurysm. 1 second he was alive, texting me memes and rants about the latest crypto scam, and the next, I was getting a call from his sister saying he collapsed in the shower and never woke up. We had been best friends since 6th grade, grew up in the same cul-de-sac, played the same video games, even went to the same college. We'd been drifting a little in our late 20s, but not in a hostile way. Just life, jobs, partners, time. But we still messaged each other nearly every day, especially about crypto. He was a true believer. He got into Bitcoin way before it was cool. Back in 2013, he mined it on his college laptop until it melted the fan. By the time 2017 rolled around, he had about 4 BTC. When it dipped back down in 2018, he didn't sell. Diamond hands, he'd say. Always diamond hands. I wasn't nearly as invested. I bought a few altcoins here and there, rode the Dogecoin wave for a while, but I never had the patience or conviction he did. Still, I admired it, and he loved talking about it. When he died, it felt surreal. There was no warning, no goodbye. One day he was here. The next I was standing in his childhood bedroom, helping his mom sort through his things. She was a wreck. A kind woman, but overwhelmed by grief and logistics. She didn't know how to access his accounts. Didn't know what a hardware wallet was. Didn't even know he had one. But I did. He had mentioned it to me months prior. He even sent me a photo of it once, saying, "The Vault." It was a grey Ledger Nano S, tucked inside a hollowed-out Stephen King book. Said it made him feel like a spy. I didn't think much of it at the time. But that day, when I was alone in his room while his mom took a call downstairs, I opened the book. And there it was. I stared at it for a long time. I knew what it was. I knew what it meant. And I knew there was a non-zero chance his entire crypto stash was on that thing. I didn't take it right away. I put it back. Told myself I was being paranoid. That I was grieving. But that night, I couldn't sleep. My brain was spinning with numbers. 4 Bitcoin. At the time, Bitcoin was trading around $18,000. That's about $72,000. Just sitting there. The next day, I went back under the pretense of helping with the funeral slideshow. When no one was looking, I slipped the ledger into my coat pocket. I told myself I would just hold on to it. Just in case. Just until his family figured out what to do. But they didn't. Weeks passed. Then months. I watched his mom struggle to close out his bank accounts, cancel his subscriptions, donate his clothes. No one mentioned the ledger. I don't even think they knew it existed. I researched everything. Watched hours of YouTube tutorials, read Reddit threads, figured out how to access the wallet. I didn't need a password. He had stored the seed phrase in a note on an old iPad he'd given me years ago. He never factory reset it. One day I powered it on and there it was. 12 words that opened the vault. When I logged in, my hands were shaking. The wallet had 3.9 BTC, about $70,000. I transferred it to a new wallet I created. I used a mixer service to anonymize it, took every precaution, and then I just sat with it. I didn't spend any of it for the first year. I told myself I was protecting it, that he would have wanted me to have it, that he'd rather I hold it than let it rot in digital limbo. But deep down, I knew that was a lie. Eventually, I spent some. I paid off my student loans, about $22,000, then my credit cards, then a used car. Nothing flashy. I didn't quit my job. I didn't make any big moves. I just stabilized. No one ever found out. His family assumed he never told anyone the password. They made peace with the idea that his crypto fortune was unrecoverable, and maybe it should have been. I think about him a lot. I think about how excited he was for the future, how proud he was of his portfolio, how he wanted to use it one day to fund a non-profit for mental health support in schools. He told me that once. I remember the exact conversation, and I try to forget it, because I didn't use it for that. I used it for me. Sometimes I wonder what I would say if he showed up one day, somehow alive, and asked me what happened to it. I don't think I could lie to him, but I don't think I could look him in the eye either. I don't know what this makes me. A thief? An opportunist? A survivor? All I know is that it happened, and I live with it every single day. Confession 3. I pretended to be terminally ill for 4 years. I didn't set out to become a liar. It just escalated. I was 16 when it started. Awkward, lonely, and grappling with the kind of identity crisis that sneaks up on quiet kids who don't quite fit anywhere. At school, I was invisible. At home, I was background noise. Online, though, I could be anyone. It began with a throwaway Tumblr post. I wrote something vague like, "Another bad scan. I'm so tired of pretending I'm okay." It wasn't meant to be a lie. I was depressed. I felt sick all the time. I didn't have a diagnosis, but the ache in my chest was real enough. I guess I wanted someone, anyone, to ask if I was okay, and they did. The notes started trickling in. Anonymous messages telling me to stay strong. People asked what I was fighting. I panicked and said leukemia. It was the first thing that popped into my head. Suddenly I wasn't just a sad teenager, I was a brave one. Inspirational even. That post blew up. I gained hundreds of followers in a week. People shared my quotes, drew fan art of me, even started GoFundMe pages I never asked for. I was horrified and addicted. Over time, I created a whole mythology. I named hospitals, posted blurry IV photos I found on Google, and described imaginary treatments in vivid detail. I never asked for money, not directly, but when people offered to send care packages, I gave them a P.O. box I'd rented with leftover birthday money. Letters poured in, handmade blankets, prayer beads, cookies. I thanked every sender with a handwritten note. I convinced myself it was harmless. I wasn't taking money. I wasn't conning anyone for gain. I was just a scared kid playing make-believe a little too hard. That's what I told myself. But it went on. And on. Into college, into my early 20s. People followed me across platforms, Instagram, Discord, Twitter. I curated an identity that was raw, open, and heartbreakingly honest. I knew exactly how to sound like someone who was dying but fighting. I knew how to make people feel close to me. I posted photos of hospital bracelets I'd found, time-stamped to seem recent. I even learned to type with a tremble by shaking my phone. It was exhausting. I was constantly afraid of slipping up, of forgetting a detail, of someone reverse image searching one of my photos. But it was also the only time in my life I felt truly seen. Every like, every message, every repost made me feel like I mattered. Then came the moment I couldn't undo. A girl from the community, let's call her Elle, reached out. Her mom had just been diagnosed with the actual form of leukemia I claimed to have. She was terrified. She asked me questions, clung to my every word. I gave her advice, told her what to expect, what to say to the doctors. I lied to her face. When her mum passed away 8 months later, she sent me a message. I don't know how you stay so strong. You give me hope. That was the day I shut it all down. I deleted everything, locked every account, threw out the letters, the gifts, left the P.O. box empty, and I never went back. That was 3 years ago. I haven't told anyone. I still live in fear that someone, somewhere, has screenshots. That someone will recognize my writing style and expose me. That one of those kind strangers will find out they were manipulated by a bored teenager with too much time and too little self-worth. I didn't do it for money. I didn't do it for fame. I did it because being terminally ill was the only version of myself people seemed to care about. And I hate myself for that. I'm in therapy now. Real therapy. I still struggle to tell the truth about my past. But I'm trying. Slowly. Because the worst part isn't that I lied. The worst part is there are real people who suffer every day. And I wore their pain like a costume. And I can't take that back. Confession 4. I secretly sabotaged my brother's career. We've always been compared. He was the golden child, charismatic, confident, straight A student. I was the quieter one, always a few steps behind. He won debates. I fumbled through presentations. He got into the top university in our state. I went to community college. I don't think I ever hated him. Not exactly. But over time, admiration soured into something bitter, especially when our parents made it clear who they were proud of. They bragged about him at every family gathering. He's interning at a senator's office. He's going to law school. I became the background noise to his highlight reel. I smiled through it, always the supportive sibling. I even helped him move into his apartment when he got his first job after graduation, an associate position at a boutique law firm. Meanwhile, I was stringing together temp gigs and living in a shared apartment that always smelled vaguely of mold and takeout. The sabotage didn't start as a plan. It started as a feeling. He asked me to help review his resume for a lateral move he was applying for. He trusted my editing eye, said I was good with wording. I opened the file late one night and stared at it. Everything about it was flawless. So I introduced a typo, a single one, swapped the firm name in one line with a similar sounding competitor that he'd never worked for. It was tiny, barely noticeable. He sent it out without checking. Didn't get a call back. That one moment sparked something in me. A terrible mix of power and guilt. I told myself it was a fluke, a one-time lapse. But the seed was planted. Over the next few months, he asked for more help. Emails, letters, edits for job applications and scholarship submissions. Each time, I made small tweaks. Subtle misphrasings. Overly casual lines. One time, I even left an outdated contact number for a reference. When he didn't get interviews, I comforted him. Told him it was just the economy. That firms were cutting back. That he was overqualified. He started to doubt himself. I watched the confidence drain out of him slowly, like water leaking from a cracked glass. And I felt awful. But I also felt something else. Noticed. For the first time, I was the one offering advice. The one he leaned on. Our parents stopped bragging quite so much. I overheard our mom say, maybe he just needs time to find his footing, like me. It was sick. I know that now. But in the moment, it felt like I was finally leveling the playing field. Like I was reclaiming years of being second best. Then came the breaking point. He applied for a highly competitive clerkship, a stepping stone to a dream career. He asked me to review his application one last time. I sat with it for hours. Everything about it was perfect. I could have just left it alone, but I didn't. I rewrote a paragraph in the cover letter to sound more arrogant than humble, just enough to be off-putting. I deleted one of the optional essay responses. Then I hit save. He sent it in that night. A few weeks later, he found out he didn't get it. He was crushed. I watched him unravel in silence. He blamed himself. Said maybe law wasn't for him after all. He started talking about quitting, about going back to school for something else. I nodded along, offered support, said things like, maybe this is a sign to explore other passions. And then I broke. I didn't confess. I couldn't. But I stopped. Cold turkey. From that day on, I never touched another one of his documents. I found excuses. Said I was too busy. Said he should trust his own instincts. He never found out. He's doing something completely different now. Teaching high school government, of all things. Says he's never been happier. And maybe that's true. Maybe it worked out for the best. But I'll never forget that version of him sitting on our parents' couch, shoulders slumped, wondering what he did wrong. And I'll never forget that I was the one who did it to him. Not because I hated him, but because I wanted to be enough. And I didn't know any other way. Confession 5. I lied about witnessing a crime. Someone went to jail. It's been over a decade and I still replay it. The courtroom. The sound of the gavel. The moment he looked at me. Not with anger, but confusion. Like he couldn't believe what I was saying. And neither could I. I was 17 when it happened. Just a high school senior trying to survive my last year with average grades, a crush on someone who barely knew I existed, and a part-time job at a sandwich shop that paid in grease burns and minimum wage. The crime wasn't dramatic. No murder, no gunshots, just a robbery. A liquor store down the street from where I worked. A masked guy ran in with a crowbar, smashed the counter, grabbed the cash tray, and sprinted off. It was over in seconds. No one was seriously hurt. The cashier had a bruised wrist. But the cops were desperate. The town was small. This kind of thing didn't happen often. I didn't see it. Not really. I heard the sirens. I saw the tape. And then, at school the next day, I overheard a kid bragging about how his cousin might have been involved. It was a stupid, throwaway comment. Probably just him trying to sound edgy. But I repeated it. First to my friend, then to a teacher, then to a school resource officer. Things escalated fast. The cops brought me in, asked what I knew. I panicked. I didn't want to seem like I was wasting their time, so I lied. I said I saw him near the liquor store that night. I said he looked nervous. I even described the hoodie he was wearing, red, with white stripes. I don't know why I said that. It just felt like the kind of detail they wanted. They thanked me, wrote it all down, told me I was helping, and I felt important. The kid they arrested wasn't in my grade. I didn't really know him, just recognized him from the hallways. He was quiet, wore earbuds all the time, didn't talk much. When I saw his mugshot on the local news, I felt sick, but I didn't say anything. The trial happened months later. I was called as a witness. My parents were proud. Said I was being brave. I dressed in my best clothes, rehearsed what I'd say. The prosecutor told me I was doing the right thing. I took the stand, swore to tell the truth, and lied. I said I saw him run from the store, that I was pretty sure it was him, even though it was dark. I said he was wearing that red hoodie, that I remembered because it stood out. His public defender tried to poke holes, asked if I was absolutely certain. I hesitated, just long enough to seem unsure, but not enough to undo what I'd said. He was found guilty. Not just because of me. There was some circumstantial stuff too. A neighbor thought they saw someone matching his build. He had a record for shoplifting. It all stacked up. The sentence wasn't long. 3 years with time off for good behavior. Still, he went to jail. After the verdict, my parents took me out for ice cream. I smiled, laughed, pushed it all down. I tried to forget. And for a while, I did. Graduated, moved out, got a job. But it would hit me at random moments. The sound of keys jangling, a guy in a red hoodie on the subway, the phrase, "I swear to tell the truth." About a year ago, I looked him up. Just his name and the town. I found a post on a local forum. Someone saying he'd been released, was trying to get back on his feet, working 2 jobs, living with a friend. I stared at that screen for a long time. I don't know what kind of life he has now. I don't know if he knows I lied. Maybe he does. Maybe he always did. Maybe he just didn't have the power to prove it. I've never told anyone. Not my family, not my therapist, not even in a journal. Until now. I think about writing him a letter. I even drafted one once. Tried to explain. To apologize. But how do you say, "I ruined your life because I wanted to feel important," and expect forgiveness? So I didn't send it. I still have it though, folded up in a shoebox under my bed, next to my old red hoodie. I haven't worn it in years. Confession 6. I destroyed a marriage because I was jealous. There are lines you don't think you'll ever cross until you do, and once you've stepped over them, there's no going back. She was my best friend. Since college. We met in a dorm hallway, both trying to do laundry at 2 a.m., and instantly clicked. For years we were inseparable. Roommates, travel partners, confidants. I was the maid of honor at her wedding. I gave a toast. I cried real tears. And I lied. Not all at once. It started slow. Her husband was perfect. Too perfect. He was funny in that disarming way. Smart but humble. Patient even when she was overwhelmed. I liked him. Everyone did. But I loved her. I don't know when it shifted from admiration to longing. Maybe it was the way she touched my arm when she laughed, or how she'd fall asleep with her head on my shoulder during the movie nights. She never gave any signs of wanting more, but my heart didn't care. I thought I could handle it, that I could be happy watching her be happy. But every time she told me how lucky she felt to have him, it felt like a knife. And then one night, I did something unforgivable. I created a fake email, posed as a stranger, and sent her husband a message. You should know your wife isn't who you think she is. I included vague references to a made-up affair. Nothing provable, just enough to plant doubt. I didn't expect it to work. I thought he'd delete it. Maybe even show it to her and laugh. But he didn't. A week later, she texted me in tears. Said he confronted her. That he found something on her phone. A message from an old friend that sounded too flirty. She insisted it was innocent. He wasn't sure. The trust was cracked. And I comforted her. Held her hand. Listened while she cried about how she didn't know what went wrong. I told her some people just can't handle being married to someone bright and social. I told her she deserved someone who trusted her. The spiral was slow, but inevitable. They tried therapy, counseling, took a break. Then one day she told me they were done. Just like that. 6 years of love, unraveled by doubt. She never found out it was me. And I didn't make a move. I didn't swoop in to get the girl. I couldn't. The guilt made me sick. I stopped answering her calls for a while. Said I was busy. Needed space. She never pushed. We're still friends. Not close like before. She thinks I pulled away because her divorce made me sad. And she's not wrong. I see her dating now, laughing again. She looks freer in a way. And it kills me. Not because I still want her, but because I took something from her. And I can never give it back. I didn't ruin her marriage out of spite. I did it because I couldn't stand being on the outside of her happiness, because I wanted to matter more, because I was selfish. She still texts me on my birthday, and every year I wonder if I'll finally tell her the truth, but I never do. Confession 7. I faked a kidnapping to get out of debt. I was drowning. Not in the dramatic movie scene sense, but in a quiet, relentless way. Like the weight of everything just kept stacking until I couldn't breathe. It started with a car loan, then a medical bill I ignored, then credit cards, then a payday loan to pay off another loan. I told myself it was temporary, that once I got a better job or picked up some freelance work, I'd catch up. But I didn't. By the time I was 29, I owed just over $42,000. No assets, no savings, rent 3 months behind, utilities in my roommate's name. I was constantly dodging calls, screening emails, lying to my parents about how busy but good things were. The breaking point came one morning when I woke up to find my car gone, repossessed in the middle of the night. I sat on the curb in my pajamas, watching neighbors pretend not to notice. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I just felt blank. That night, in a haze of panic and shame, I remembered something. A few years earlier, a friend of mine joked that if she ever got desperate enough, she'd fake a kidnapping and make her rich aunt pay a ransom. We all laughed. But now it didn't sound so funny. My parents aren't rich, but my uncle is. Not billionaire rich, but well off. Retired early. No kids. I hadn't spoken to him much in years, but we were close when I was younger. He always said, "If you're ever in real trouble, you call me." So I did. But not as myself. I created a burner email. Sent a message claiming I was being held by someone who needed cash, $15,000, or else I'd be left somewhere no one would find me. I kept it vague. No gore. No over-the-top movie dialogue. Just enough to scare him. I said the kidnappers would be watching for any police involvement. That if he contacted law enforcement, I'd be gone. I gave him 48 hours and a Bitcoin wallet address. Then I shut off my phone, packed a bag, and checked into a cheap motel an hour out of town. Paid in cash. Spent the night watching TV with the volume low, waiting for the guilt to kick in. It didn't. Not at first. He paid. 12 hours early. The money hit the wallet. I used a crypto laundering service to scrub the trail, moved the funds, then shut everything down. Sent one last message saying I'd been released and was recovering, but didn't want to talk about it. That I needed time. I waited another day, then came home. Told my roommate I'd been staying with an old friend to clear my head. Told my parents I'd taken a mental health break. No one asked too many questions. And just like that, I was free. Not completely. $15,000 didn't solve everything. But it bought me space. I paid off the worst of it. Got my rent current. Got my phone turned back on. Started breathing again. But I couldn't shake the feeling. Not guilt, exactly. Something worse. Like I'd broken some internal compass and couldn't trust myself anymore. A month later, I got a letter from my uncle. Just a short note. He said he was glad I was okay. That nothing mattered more than my safety. That if I ever needed to talk, he was there. I stared at it for a long time. He never mentioned the money. Never asked for it back. Never even hinted that he knew something was off. But I think he knew. And I think that's what haunts me most. Not that I lied. Not that I faked a crime. But that someone loved me enough to save me. And I turned that love into leverage. That's the part I can't fix. And that's the part I live with. Confession 8. I cheated on a test and got a scholarship. Someone else deserved. I remember the exact moment I decided to do it. I was sitting in the computer lab, staring at the screen, heart pounding, knowing I was out of time. It was the final standardized test of my senior year, the one that determined eligibility for a statewide scholarship that could cover 4 full years of college tuition. My GPA was high, but I needed a top percentile score to qualify. I had studied, but not enough. I was exhausted, behind on everything, and terrified that I'd end up stuck in the same town forever. So I made a choice. It wasn't elaborate. I'd found an old PDF online, a leaked version of a previous test, eerily similar to the one we were about to take. I printed it out and studied the answer patterns. During the test, when I got stuck, I trusted my memory. And where that failed, I guessed. When the scores came back, I was in the 98th percentile. No one questioned it. My teachers congratulated me. My parents were proud. I got the scholarship, full ride, honors program, dorm priority. I smiled for pictures and thanked everyone like I had earned it. I convinced myself it wasn't really cheating. I hadn't copied answers during the test. I hadn't paid someone to take it for me. I just prepared better. That's what I told myself, over and over. But I knew. I found out later that a classmate, someone quieter, someone who worked twice as hard and had a tougher home life, missed the score cut off by just 1 point. She didn't get the scholarship. She ended up at community college, commuting 2 hours a day and working nights at a grocery store. I saw her once, sophomore year. She looked tired. We talked for a minute. She congratulated me. I said thank you. Then I went back to my dorm, my dining plan, my free textbooks. I tried to forget, buried it under years of coursework, student clubs, internships, but it's always been there. Every time I got an opportunity, an interview, a grant, a conference, I wondered if it would have gone to her. I graduated with honors, got a great job, paid off my credit cards. On paper, I did everything right. But I still carry that moment, that one choice. I think about writing to her. I think about confessing, offering money, something. But what would that change now? Would it help her? Or just unearth a wound she's already buried? So I stay silent. And every time I see a scholarship application or a standardized test ad, my stomach knots. Because I know. And no one else ever will. The scholarship I received changed everything. It wasn't just about tuition, it opened doors. Special advisement programs, early registration, an elite study abroad semester in Prague. I never had to worry about where my next meal was coming from. I lived in a clean dorm, had health insurance through the university, and access to resources I never imagined having. I told myself I was making the most of it, that maybe I'd cheated the system, but at least I wasn't wasting the chance. But that logic started to crumble my junior year. I was assigned to mentor incoming freshmen, part of a leadership track within the honors program. One of my mentees was a young woman from a nearby town. She reminded me of the girl I'd displaced. Her story was eerily similar. First-generation college student, working 2 jobs, always tired. She confessed one day during office hours that she'd just barely missed qualifying for the same scholarship I had. By one point, she said, laughing like it didn't matter, "Guess I'm lucky to be here at all." I nodded, smiling, but I felt sick. I went home that night and reread the PDF I'd used. I still had it saved in an email folder labeled Resources. It wasn't even a complete match. Just enough of it resembled the real test to tip the scale. I didn't sleep that night. Sometimes I fantasize about giving the scholarship back, sending an anonymous confession to the university. But what would that accomplish now? They can't go back in time and fix what I broke. They can't rewrite someone else's path just because I regret mine. And yet, I know the system is full of people like me. People who took shortcuts, who exploited cracks in the process and landed somewhere they didn't truly earn. I don't think most of them lose sleep over it, but I do. I lose sleep every time someone praises my hard work. Every time a colleague says I'm so driven, because deep down, I worry that everything I've built stands on a lie. I wonder if the girl I edged out ever knew. If she heard rumors. If she guessed. If she looked at the list of recipients and wondered why she didn't make the cut. There's a number that haunts me. 1470. That was my score. A hair above the threshold. Hers was 1469. 1 point. 1 question. 1 moment of weakness that I turned into a staircase. She deserved that chance. She deserved the quiet library and the late-night study sessions without worrying about the morning shift at the store. She deserved the mentorship, the networking, the letters of recommendation I got without asking. Sometimes I wonder what she could have become, what her life would look like now if the balance had tipped just slightly in her favor. And then I wonder, what would mine look like if it hadn't? That's the part that scares me the most. Because I don't just regret what I did to her, I regret what it revealed about me. Confession 9. I made my little brother take the fall. I wish I could say I was a good older sibling, but I wasn't. When we were growing up, I was the one who got in trouble, who pushed boundaries, who made messes and blamed them on the wind. He was quieter, gentler, the kind of kid who apologized when someone else bumped into him. Our parents adored him, but not in a way that made me jealous. More like ashamed, because he made it look so easy. It happened when I was 16, and he was 13. We were at a strip mall near our house. I'd just started hanging out with a new group of kids, older, cooler, way rougher than I was ready for. They dared me to swipe a pair of wireless earbuds from a kiosk. I said no, then yes, then I did it. We were halfway out the door when store security stopped us. I panicked, started rambling, pointing, trying to sound innocent. And then the guy asked whose backpack the earbuds were in. It was mine. But I said it was my brother's. He looked at me, eyes wide, didn't speak, didn't deny it. Just stood there while the guard asked questions. My voice shook, but I kept lying. Said he'd done it as a joke. Said he didn't understand it was wrong. They called our parents. We were both taken to a back room while we waited. I didn't look at him. Later, I heard my mum say, "He's never done anything like this before." And the store manager said, "Kids change. Peer pressure is real." My brother was grounded for 2 months. Lost his phone, his games, his trust. My parents didn't speak to him the same way after that. Not with the same softness. Something in him dimmed. He started doing worse in school. Stayed in his room more. Didn't laugh as much. And I let it happen. At first I justified it. Told myself I was protecting my future. That getting caught would have meant losing my spot on the varsity team. Maybe even getting suspended. Colleges would have seen that on my record. One mistake could have changed everything. But then weeks passed. Then months. And the guilt didn't go away. If anything, it got heavier. Every time I saw him sitting silently at the dinner table or overheard our parents talking about what happened to him, I felt it. A slow-burning shame that I couldn't put down. He started hanging out alone. Used to play guitar in his room, but stopped. I caught him throwing out old drawings he used to be proud of. I asked him once if he was okay. He shrugged and said, "You wouldn't understand." And he was right. By the time I turned 18, I had a college acceptance letter in hand. I packed my things and left. My parents hugged me. My brother just stood there. I tried to joke with him, said I'd visit, that we'd hang out like old times. He nodded but didn't smile. I didn't confess. In college, I tried to start over. Told myself it was in the past. Focused on classes, parties, new friends. But every time my brother texted me, every call I dodged, every birthday I missed, it clawed at me. He ended up going to community college, didn't apply anywhere else, said he didn't see the point. Got a job at a local warehouse, stayed in town. When I came home for the holidays, things were polite but cold. He and I talked, but it wasn't the same. The easy rhythm we used to have was gone. One night, we played video games together for a while. Mid-match, he paused and asked, "Do you ever think about that day at the mall?" My heart stopped. I didn't answer right away. I just said, "Yeah, sometimes." He nodded. Weird how stuff like that sticks with you. Then he unpaused the game and we kept playing. I wanted to tell him. I almost did. But I didn't. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was afraid it would hurt him more. That admitting it now would mean everything he believed about our family, our parents, even himself, was a lie. That he'd spent years thinking he let everyone down, when really it was me who let him down. I still haven't told anyone. Not my parents, not my friends, Not even the people I trust the most. It's not the kind of thing you just drop into conversation. But I think about it all the time. I think about how different things could have been. If I'd just owned up, if I'd taken the hit, maybe I'd have bounced back. Maybe not. But at least he wouldn't have had to carry a weight that wasn't his. He deserved better. He still does. Now we're adults. We talk, we even hang out sometimes. He jokes about that day sometimes, but never in detail. I think he remembers it differently. I think he knows, but he's never asked. And I'm too much of a coward to say the one thing I should have said all those years ago. I'm sorry. It was me. And the worst part is, even if I did say it now, it wouldn't change what I took from him. Not just the truth, but the trust.